All right. Hey, good morning. It's Tuesday, and we'll see what happens this day. I'm kind of excited about it. I wake up kind of excited about life and just everything that's going to happen, who I'm going to meet, and what I'm going to do, those kind of things. So it's been good. I'm kind of back on track. I took a break from working out and really eating right. Anyway, back at it. So yesterday was good. It was a good day, and I think I got 14,000 steps in. We have a new city walk downtown, so I walked that way. I work downtown half a day, so I just walked to the north side where our new stadium is and arena and all of that. And it's an incredible place. So we did a lot of work on that city walk, so I got to see some of that. It was just a good time. Anyway, looking forward to jumping into the truth today. Let's into Romans chapter 2. It's a lot of scripture, but man, it's so practical today. It's not like difficult to unpack, and so we'll just have a good time kind of walking through this. The thing that Paul is driving home, and I'm going to go back to this and keep harping really on these things so as we go through this. Paul is determined, as he talks to the Romans, that they would understand what salvation is. That's the crucial thing for him, the gospel of Christ, that the Son of God has come to redeem the world, that the Messiah has come, that all of us are dead in our trespasses and sins. God is going to make us alive. And so the whole tenor of this first section is helping people understand where they are. And so he says, look, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. First, the power of God to salvation to all who believe, to the Jew first and then to the Gentile. He knows his audience is Jew and Gentile and that there's a mixture there. And so he's saying, hey, listen, I'm going to speak to both of you, but I want you to understand the gospel is what I'm coming at you with. And so then he speaks of what it looks like when men have had the revelation of God. So he's saying, hey, listen, even if you've never heard the word of God, even if no one has ever explained to you anything about Jesus the Christ, you have enough revelation to know that you should change, right? And so he says you have creation, you have conscience, that inner manifestation in our life, the residual part, we if you will, of the of the image and likeness of God. And so we know right and wrong. And he says, but here's what happens to you pagans. And them, he's speaking to the Gentiles. You you suppress that truth. You didn't want it, so you suppressed it. And as you suppressed it, God began to turn you over and just let you have your way. And so when you suppress the truth, there's a void of truth in your life. You're ignoring the true signs of creation and conscience that says there is a God, that there is a right and wrong. You've suppressed that truth, so you have nothing left but irrationality. And that's what we're seeing in the world today. God is is so far removed from the thoughts of the movers and shakers in our country today that the thoughts are irrational, and that's what you're seeing coming out in that realm is just irrational thoughts because you have nothing else. You've taken truth out, and so now everything is stupid. And this is where Paul was saying this is where the Gentiles are. And then he says, and so but then you need some kind of thing to worship, so you decide you're going to worship creation instead of the one who created it. And so then he talks about what they did. Then they began to do homosexual perversions and things like that, and he gives a grocery list of sins, disobedient to parents, just this mob riot thing that's going on, right? Then he turns his attention to the Jews and says, but you too are without excuse. And that's what we've been looking at. Verse 12 is a key verse in this whole section, chapter 2, verse 12. After he's just kind of talked about the foolish person who passes judgment and all of those things, he's still driving home that concept. He says this in verse 12, for all who have sinned without the law also perish without the law. And all who have sinned under the law will be judged by the law. For it's not the hearers of the law who are righteous before God, but the doers of the law who will be justified. For when Gentiles who do not have the law instinctively perform the requirements of the law, these not having the law are a law to themselves. So they have showed the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience testifying, right? on the day when, according to my gospel, God will judge the secrets of mankind through Jesus the Christ. Now, this is where he's gotten. There's going to come a day of judgment, and it's not going to be about what you know. It's not going to be about all of that. It's going to be about what you did with what you know, right? So for the Gentile, hey, you had revelation and you had conscience. Instead of honoring that, some of you did, some of you didn't. Instead of honoring that, you suppressed the truth. But he said, but those of you who not having the law still did what was right, you saw that. That's a good thing. You get credit for that. Now, don't let this mess with your theology of salvation and all of that. And does that mean that all roads lead to heaven as long as you had good, noble thoughts? We're not talking about that. Paul is driving one case. He'll make the other plain. So let's don't jump ahead of that and all of a sudden start making theological statements based on just this passage. But let's just look at this passage. He's driving home one point. It's the doing of the word that matters. That's the whole point. That's why God came to save us, to transform us, right? To move us from darkness to light. If we say we've been removed from darkness, but we still look like light, we're liars and we deceive ourselves. The whole book of 1 John is all about that. So here he says in verse 17, that's where we're going to pick it up today. But if you call yourself a Jew, now he's going now to right to the center, and he's going to explain to the Jews that you think you're secure, you think that you're good, you're not. There's so much that we can identify with this because the church today thinks they're on the side of righteousness and everything, and they're hitting and missing on that, in my opinion. They've confused a lot of people with this mixture of everything that they're throwing at the world. And so you have people who, because they go to church, because they have a Bible, because they walked an aisle, they feel secure in where they are. Like I'm going to heaven, and there's something nice about that security, right? And so I'm not trying to discourage anybody, but like Paul told the Corinthians in his church when they were not living as they should, he said, you know what you need to do? Examine yourself to see if you're of the household of faith. He said, because why he said? Because I fear that just like Eve was led astray, you too are being led astray from the pure and simple devotion to Christ. And so this is where it comes back down to. So here's what we ask ourselves: what justifies someone before God? Right? We're standing at the judgment seat. What will justify us? Will it be my works? Will it be my heritage? Will it be my sacrifice? What will it be that will justify us? This is where Paul is going here. And so he begins to the Jew. He's going to knock down three pillars that they believe created security in their life. One was if you call yourself a Jew. But if you call yourself a Jew and rely upon the law and boast in God, so this is his argument. Two things he's already given to us: your heritage, right? They were Jews. Not Israelites. Jew seemed to signify a nationality, a belonging, right? Not so much, hey, I am, because they've been dispersed, so they don't really have a homeland anymore. But they still have this arrogance about them that they're God's chosen people, and they are God's chosen people. But they wear it. It's like they're bad, just like we're better than everybody else. Why? Because we have a better heritage. We are the people of God, right? And so Paul is saying, hey, not everybody who's a Jew is a people of God. This is what's messing with them. And so if we were just to apply this quickly in our own world, we would say, some people find their security in the fact that they go to the right church, right? I go to the popular church. I go to the big box over there on the interstate. It's filled with thousands of people. They've got satellite churches everywhere. I'm cool, man. That's my church. I mean, I only go, every once in a while, twice a month maybe or whatever, or maybe seasonally. But somebody wants to challenge me about my faith. I go to First Church of the Internet, or whatever it is that you've got going on, right? Or maybe it's like I grew up in a family. I have this happen to me all the time. Hey man, what's going on, with you spiritually and what's happening there? I go to church. Oh really? Okay, well, and my mom and dad, man, they're strong in the faith. right? So it's about heritage. Your heritage will not save you, right? This is what he's driving home. But if you call yourself a Jew and you rely upon the law, right? You have Bible knowledge, you boast in God, and you know His will, and distinguish the things that matter, being instructed by the law. Man, you sit under the law. You sat under some really, you know it. You boast in God. Man, God wrote us a special law. We've got it. I can show it to you. We go to the temple, or the tabernacle. I'll pull it out. I'll show you the scroll, man. We got truth, right? I know His will. I know what He wants. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? And he said, I teach these things to my children, right? I'm good at that. I distinguish things that matter, being instructed by the law. At the Sabbath, I'm always there. I'm always listening to the Word, right? And so if we were to just not a stretch to talk to our own selves about, well, I got Bible knowledge. Oh, I know the Bible. Oh, I've studied the Bible, right? Man, you cannot imagine how many people that I talk to who think they know the Scriptures, can even quote it. There's not even a lifestyle change in their life. So is it your Bible knowledge? So let's say maybe it's not your heritage. How about your Bible knowledge? Is that what it is? Man, you know God's will, right? All right, hey, we're supposed to love our neighbors and stuff. It's all about love, man. It's a love thing. That's what we do. That's the word. And that is true. There may be more to it than that, but that's what they say. Oh, I know the essential things, the things that matter, right? Oh, I understand the gospel. Oh, I understand the end times, man. You want to talk about the rapture, or you want to talk about Amil, or you want to talk about, everybody picks their own poison about the end times. That's all I study. I've been studying that forever, right? So so when we stand before God, is that going to be what He's looking for? Is that it? Man, I sat under some great teaching. I watch MacArthur every day, or I watch Stephen Furtick, or I watch whoever it is you think, is the top dog, whatever. I'm not endorsing anybody. I'm just simply saying this is what we do, right? I'm a huge fan of this guy or that guy. When I get to heaven and I'm standing at the judgment, is He going to judge me based on my knowledge of truth and how much I know? Right. This is the questions that Paul is going to. Then he gets to verse 19. And are confident that you yourself are a guide to people who are blind. You're a light to those in darkness, a corrector of the foolish, a teacher of the immature, possessing in the law the embodiment of knowledge and truth. Right? He's going, man. So how about this? Not only do you now you think yourself you're a teacher. You're somebody who can. If somebody wants to know the way, you're willing to raise your hand and say, I'm your guide. Right? And so if I stand before the Lord on that judgment day and I go, hey man, I've been a guide. I knew, and I told it. If somebody asked me, I could tell them how to get where they ought to go, right? So you show people the way. You counsel people in changing their way. He says you do all of those things. Okay, all right. So then he's going to go, all right, so we've seen other people change. Did you change? See, this is where it comes down to. This is what he says. Listen, this is powerful stuff. You, therefore, verse 21, who teach someone else. Do you teach yourself? Isn't that amazing? How you can have people who, everything to do. They can school everybody and everything. Live it? Oh, no. No, I don't live it. I know it. I get credit. I know it. Yeah, but do you live it? Right? And this is... And he is driving home this works thing. It is by our works that we are justified. That's who he's going to give credit to. He's going to say that Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. On what basis? On going to kill his son on that altar. James says, faith without works, it's dead. Right? There's nothing. If it didn't produce any, you can have a great seed, but if that seed can't produce fruit, what good is that seed? Man, you got 100 seeds. They're apple trees. But they don't grow any apples. Those seeds are worthless. And this is what he's saying here. Man, you got all kind of faith, but there's no fruit of it. It's worthless. This is sobering. So he goes through this deal. He says, so a teacher, you hold in your mind the knowledge of truth. Do you ever preach to yourself, right? Do you hypocrite much? This is what he's asking, right? You preach that one is not to steal, but do you steal? I don't know if you know, but the Jews were known as thieves, right? And in fact, that's what Jesus called it when he walked into the temple. It's a den of thieves, right? So this was kind of the practice of their life. You remember when the Pharisees, you don't want to care for your parents. You're going to take what you should be giving to your parents and say, well, I gave it to the Lord. I'd love to help my mom and dad, but I've already given all that money, set it aside for the Lord. Doesn't mean they gave it away. It's right there. They can still pull out of it and do whatever they want to, but it's sacred to the Lord. Right? This is thievery. This is what he's saying. You who say that one is not to commit adultery, do you commit adultery? Remember when Jesus says about if you lust in your heart? Man, these people were full of this stuff. You loathe idols, yet you rob temples. You take everything you can from it. You'll eat the meat, and he'll get into that in a minute. It's okay to do that, but those are the things he's talking about. You who boast in the law, through your breaking the law, you dishonor God. How can you say you know the law, but yet you dishonor the law and think that you're honoring God? For the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you, just as it is written. He's saying, listen, man, you're making a mockery of some of, and I say this all the time, I think America would be much stronger, spiritually speaking, if at least half the pastors just got out of the way. Because most of the guys who decided somehow they're gonna grab some people, get their little act together, learn how to tell a good story, pull a verse out of the Bible, kind of make it mean whatever you say it means, and just teach it. You're ruining the church because you're hypocrites in that sense. And this is what he's saying here. Listen, man, look, the church is doing enough damage the world doesn't have to. We want to talk about being persecuted. Man, the church has gotten stupid. They're preaching things they shouldn't be preaching and ranting about things that they don't need to be ranting about. You and me were called not to confront culture. You can go check it. We're called to live differently in that culture. That's what we're called to. And so this is what's going on, and this is the sham that that Paul's recognizing right here. He says, verse 23, you boast in the law, you break the law. Do you dishonor, right? For the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles. Then he comes to one more thing. He says, how about your sign of the covenant? You think you're something because you've been circumcised, right? For indeed, circumcision is of value if you practice the law, right? You make a covenant with God that you're going to live the law and you're going to practice the law. That's a great thing. Now, it happened to have gotten to be just a cultural thing. Don't you even remember in the book of Acts we studied not too long ago when the Gentiles did come to Christ? What were they saying? Well, they got to be circumcised. They got to be circumcised. And as though that's the thing. And so listen to what he says. But if you are a violator of the law, your circumcision has turned into uncircumcision. You can't say you're set apart and then go be apart, right? He said then you weren't set apart. You can't say you're circumcised and then live just like the pagans do and somehow think that circumcision does anything to you. You can't say that you've been baptized, set apart, buried with him in baptism, raised again in new life, and yet you don't have new life. You're just a newer version, a little slightly better version of the older you. God didn't call us to be slightly better. He called us to be radically different. Radically different. All old things pass away, behold, all things become new. This is what he's called us to. Now, let's just read through this because all we're going to do is read it and it's going to make sense to you. So if the uncircumcised man, the one who hasn't been circumcised or had an aisle walk or baptized or has a membership somewhere, yet he keeps the law, will he not judge you, who though having the letter of the law and circumcision are a violator of the law? For he is not a Jew who is one outwardly, nor is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is of the heart, by the Spirit, not by the letter. And his praise is not from people, but from God. Quit playing to the crowds, he's saying. Set yourself apart from God. Listen, if you have a sign that you've been set apart, but your life isn't transformed, you're a joke. That's what he's saying. Outward stuff doesn't transform. Inner truth lived out is what justifies us. Man, this is powerful, sobering, and powerful. So think about that. I know it raised a lot of issues. Well, what does that mean? Am I saved? Am I not saved? How much good do you have to do? I just want us to have this one question. Is what God has placed in my heart, am I living it out? Do people know I'm a Christ follower without me ever having to open my mouth? That's the question. Man, Lord bless you guys. I will see you in the morning, Lord willing.